us were expecting the acquittal of Kyle Rittenhouse as we saw the trial occurring and we saw the direction it was taking. Nonetheless, it is jarring. And the essential verdict that he did this, he killed these people out of self-defense, speaks to a lot of things. It obviously speaks to the deep racism in our criminal justice system. Kyle Rittenhouse went to a rally with a lot of African-American people to, show support for the police. That's what he claimed maybe, but really to scare people and strut his racism, if you will. And when a conflict arose, he panicked and, like a coward, shot people. And was acquitted and said this was self-defense. Some have said that if Rittenhouse were African-American and behaved similarly, he would have been given a long jail sentence. That's not really true. If Rittenhouse were African-American and behaved similarly, he would have been shot and killed at the rally. Full stop. So this exposes the racism, the deep racism in our system. But it also exposes the deep dysfunction in American society, because to believe that Kyle Rittenhouse was acting out of self-defense is, first of all, to just have a deeply racist worldview. But secondly, it is also to believe that we are always threatened and that the only way we can possibly ever defend ourselves is to walk around heavily armed. One way to defend yourself is not to go to situations where you are going to provoke acts of anger towards you. One way to keep yourself secure is not to go somewhere where you are outnumbered, heavily armed, trying to, keep the peace. One way to avoid feeling threatened is to treat people equally and care about other people. But we are being told by the fascist movement, which is the MAGA cult, but also the larger Republican Party, by some of the corporate sponsors of that fascist movement, and here I would point very much to the gun lobby, that we must live in fear, and the only way we can defend ourselves is if we carry a gun, a big gun, everywhere. Of course, the logic of that is outrageous, because if Kyle Rittenhouse acted out of self-defense, then any one of us at any time can walk down the street with a gun and assume that someone kind of looks at us oddly and says, "What are you doing? Why are you carrying that gun?" We can shoot them because we can say, "He looked at me weird. I thought he was going to shoot me." And particularly if there's a racial dynamic there and the person who ends up committing the murder is white, maybe they'll get away with it. That's the message this verdict sends to American society. But one of the most upsetting parts about this is what will happen to Kyle Rittenhouse now. This murderer, this person so lost in a web of racism, hatred, anger, and ignorance that he killed people because he thought the cops needed his support because he wanted to show that he believed in law enforcement. That's how lost he is. He is a coward, a racist, and a murderer. But he's also something else. He's a living martyr of the new fascist movement. And that's what congresspeople like Matt Gaetz and others are going to make of him. He will be a symbol. He will embrace the far right, and he will be the symbol of what is a growing and very dangerous fascist movement. The justice was not served, regardless of the verdict, regardless of the law, and this racist will now go out there as a hero to some, and there are people dead, and perhaps, very importantly, a precedent here. Every rally in America now will now be more dangerous because of this verdict and because of angry white people who feel empowered to shoot people if they, feel threatened for some reason.